Hello friends, today in this tutorial I will be explaining you the most important concept in JavaScript for interview as well. So if you're preparing for a JavaScript interview for applying for a job or fresher, if you're a fresher, then definitely watch this entire video. I will be explaining you the concept of hoisting inside JavaScript. So hoisting is a very important concept, guys, when it comes to declaring your variables inside JavaScript whenever you are working with functions. It typically is the concept of moving all the variables, all the declaration of variables to the top of the function, to the top of the global scope. So basically whenever you write your JavaScript, this is the global scope that I'm talking about. So we are not writing any kind of function here, so this is the global scope, this is the global scope here. So all the variables that you declare, let's suppose you declare three variables: let x1, let y is equal to 2, and let z is equal to 3. So you have declared, you can see we have declared these three variables: x, y and z. So three variables. So we have let's suppose we have written some function here, add, we take x plus y and x comma y, and basically we console log x plus y. So we write some functions, basically let me declare, copy paste it, subtract it. So we have various functions out there. So the concept of hoisting is that you move all your declarations, you write all your variables at the top of the JavaScript, at top of the script, at top of the global scope. So this is the concept. But people may make mistakes. They tend to declare variables after they used it. Let me show you a very simple example. Let me call this function add, let me pass x comma y here, and in the right hand side you will now see the result here, which will be printed on the screen. If I uh, show you the result here, if I open with live server, if I show you the console, you can see 3 is printed out. So because it is calling this add function, the variables are passed here. X is having the value 1, and let me show this. X is having the value 1 here, and y is having the value 2. So basically 1 plus 2 is coming out to be 3. So now this is a very normal JavaScript program, and you don't understand hosting here. So let me show you when the concept of hosting take place. So whenever you want to access these variables before the declaration, then the hosting comes, then the problem occurs. So basically let's suppose you want to access x here before the declaration. So we are declaring this x variable after it. Before it you want to access it. So what will happen here, if I show you, if I refresh the page, so what will happen, let me just, you can see cannot access x before initialization. So basically this error will take place. This is the reference error that JavaScript gives you. Cannot access x before initialization. So basically it is just giving you this simple error that you can't access x because you haven't declared it. So this is happening due to we have used this keyword of let. This is also applicable to const keyword as well. So basically if you just write this, you will get this error as well, cannot access x before initialization. But the main thing, guys, if you now use this keyword which is called as var is also used for variable declaration inside JavaScript. If you now use this keyword var, then it comes out to be undefined. So this is the concept of hoisting. So hoisting simply means that you can access JavaScript variables even before they are declared inside their the JavaScript. So you can see we are able to access x, we are able to print out the value of x even before it is initialized inside the JavaScript. So the value is undefined. It is all because JavaScript stores the value of this variable to be undefined. You can see that it is undefined. So this is the concept of hoisting for variables. So if you just search here hoisting in JavaScript, it is asked in various interviews for companies. They will ask you if you want to become a JavaScript developer. w3schools.com is a very popular web development site. The very first line it has written, uh, hoisting is the simple concept. It's a default behavior of moving declarations to the top. Declarations, what is meant by declarations? Declarations is simply how you declare your variables. All the declarations of the variables need to be present at the top of the script. This is meant by hoisting. But in many situations, if you make any sort of error, uh, a variable can be declared after it has been used. Or in other words, a variable can be used before it has been declared. So this is the same concept. You can see that we are accessing x here before it is even declared inside this function. So this can be true for any variable. Let's suppose we access y as well. We don't provide any value here to y. If I want to console log it, let's suppose y here. If I now refresh it now, this application, you will now see again undefined is coming out to be. So why it is happening, guys? Because if you once again console log x here before initialization y, so now you will see the difference here. Firstly it was undefined, and now after the statement, after the initialization, we have initialized x to 1. Now it is console logging 1 here of x, and y is once again it is undefined. So basically whenever you write after the declaration or after the initialization, if you write before it, it will be coming as undefined. After the initialization, whatever value that you insert into the value of x, it will have this value. Let's suppose again you change the value of x to, let's suppose again you declare x to be 2, again you console log x. So in that scenario, guys, once again a new variable will be created which is called xx. The previous one will be deleted. You can now see the previous x variable was deleted. Now it is having new value which is coming out to be 2. So JavaScript is not a very technical kind of a language as compared to other languages such as C++, PHP and Python. In those languages, code is executed line by line, but in JavaScript it is a interpreted kind of a language. Whenever you execute JavaScript, it executes all the code at once. So basically this is the JavaScript here. Basically the browser looks at all the variables, all the functions, and directly it executes the code. It doesn't do line by line. If you also want to show the debugger, you can also do like this. Just put the debugger here. Just click on this option, and there is also an option to debug this code as well. So there is also a debugger option. If you can see that you can pause the script execution. Now if you execute line by line, you can also do it like this. I think yeah, if you now run this, so you can do. So I think yeah, you can also use the debugger in this fashion as well. So I was just telling that hoisting is the concept of moving all your variable declarations to the top, and you can use the variables even before they are declared inside JavaScript. In some situations, it is valid for only var keyword. If you use the let keyword, it is not valid. So if you do the same process here for let, it is not valid. So it will be if you now open this inside your browser, it is hoisting is only valid for the var keyword for variables. But if you use the let keyword, it will throw this error to you, cannot access x before initialization. Same goes for const. In the case of const, you can't run this code. It will all even show the error inside the editor itself. Const declarations must be initialized. So there is a difference between these three keywords, which is var, let, and const. Const const is the constant variables. So let is again a way by which you can initialize variables, and var is again a way by which you can initialize variables. You can see missing initializer in const declaration. So whenever you initialize constant variables, you need to provide a value. So that is meant by this. So whenever you declare it, you need to provide a value. If you don't have it, it will give you this error. So if you basically provide this, and then it will give you undefined. So in the console, you will now see. So you can see that you can do like this. Uncaught reference error, cannot access X before initialization. So you can also do like this, execute line by line inside with the help of debugger. So whichever line you want to debug, you can do like this. You can see uncaught reference error. So now when it comes to functions, guys, it is slightly more different, guys. Functions are not same as variables. Let's suppose I take an example of a simple function. uh, I declare it as function hello, and basically it console log the message hello world. So basically this is a simple JavaScript function, and now I need to call this function. After the initialization, I call it simply, it will run it. It will console log a message on this console. You can now see hello world is printed out. So this is normal execution. This is not any fancy stuff going on. So if you put the uh, debugger here, if you refresh it, if you now run the debugger, it basically calls this function. It goes to this function here. It goes to this line. It console log this message like this. So basically this is the way by which it is calling this. So this is a normal execution. Now basically if I move this line hello world to above it, so we are calling this function even before it is declared. So you can do in JavaScript. This is not valid in other languages. If you do in PHP, in Python, it will give you this error. But in JavaScript you can do it. If I show you here, if I now see, so basically it is calling this hello method is calling this console log message. So basically it will print out this message. You will see hello world is printed out without any restriction. But if you do the same process for the variable, let's suppose you want to access a variable before it initialized. Let's suppose var x 5. So this, in this case, undefined will be there. Let me let me remove this. So in the console, you will now see the variable comes out to be undefined, but it is not true for the function. You can call the function before it is declared, before the definition, but it is not true for the variables which are declared by var keyword. So this is typically hosting, guys. Uh, One more thing, you can declare also, functions can also be declared in this fashion also, which is let or var hello. This is typically is the arrow syntax, console log hello world. So basically the function is stored inside a variable hello. So now if you want to call this function, if I just write like this hello, so now if you see, both the things come out to be undefined because This is not a function, this is a variable which is storing a function. So this can also be written like this, function. This also means the same thing, because this variable is storing a function. So if you do like this, so if you check the console, both the things comes out to be undefined. But now if you change it to function keyword, now it will execute. So these are some of the things that you need to understand, guys. The in-depth knowledge of JavaScript, how it works inside the browser. So basically, you can see hello is not defined. So we need, sorry, this is a function, not a variable. So we need to put a parenthesis for inside it. So this is the difference between the variables and functions, guys, when it comes to hoisting in JavaScript. So whenever someone asks you what is hoisting, you need to first of all tell them that hoisting is a simple concept in JavaScript by which we move all the declarations, all the variable declarations to the top of the script, to top of the global scope. And secondly, variables can be declared, when variables can be accessed even before they are declared, but their value will be undefined. And hoisting cannot be done when it comes to let and const keywords. In const keyword, you need to provide a value. Without providing a value, you can't declare the variables. It can only be done by using the var keyword. And when it comes to functions, you need to write a function keyword in front of the function to call the function even before it is declared. If you are storing the function inside a variable, then also it will comes out to be undefined. So this is all, guys, the concept of hoisting. I would hope that you will understand by watching this video. If you understood the concept of hoisting, please hit the like button, subscribe the channel, and for more videos like this, please hit the red subscribe button, hit the notification bell icon, and I will be seeing you in the next live stream.